Welcome in once again to the Saints Insider Podcast. Today, Tuesday, May the 13th. Zach Ewing here in our Metairie studios with Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, and Matthew Paris, our Saints Insider team. And it is schedule release eve. Woo! The NFL's new holiday.
Yeah.
Where we now get a 3-day process to release the schedule. We have the opener with international games. We have no Saints games yet. So we'll talk about that. We're going to lead, however, with more Derek Carr talk.
Any of the
Saints
prime viewing windows.
Yeah.
Hey, I know your starting quarterback retired, but by the way, no international games.
Believe it or not, the only one that they could have been was the Dolphins, right? None of the other international hosts.
Spain. Are they in Spain?
Yeah, and the Dolphins are playing Washington in Spain. So, Matt, you missed out. You missed out on quite a bit in Washington over the last year and a half.
They're probably going to play on Christmas, too. So,
well, it's not all bad then. Yeah. Okay, but we are going to start with, the story of probably the year for the Saints, and that is the Derek Carr retirement. Matt and Rod released a video on Saturday, some quick reaction, which you can find on our YouTube channel and podcast feeds. I think y'all were probably still in shock at that point. So now we've had a couple days to kind of digest this. It's still kind of shocking.
Yeah. Like it was not. I think the way I put it on Twitter was that wasn't on my Saints offseason bingo card. Even like after the whole thing in April, where there was like some doubt about whether he would play in 2025, I didn't think we'd be getting a retirement notice. I'm still not 100% convinced that he's just like walking away for good, even though Rappaport put out a big thing yesterday about how he can still throw batting practice to his kids or whatever, and that's going to be good enough. It's like, come on, man. I think there's a decent chance that 2026 rolls around and Derek Carr is like, I really had the itch to play the game again, and now I don't have to do it for the Saints.
Well, his contract would toll, so he would still have to.
Well, the big thing for me is the surgery. If he requires surgery, it's sort of this life decision. Like, do I want to go under the knife for this reconstructive shoulder surgery? Not that he's unhealthy in other ways and that he couldn't. You can survive a surgery, but it is a big ordeal. He's got to decide if he wants to go through that to play.
Yeah, and for me, I just feel like he's a guy that I don't know if Derek Carr is one of those guys like, I got to win a Super Bowl. I want to get one. Like I think
got to win a playoff game.
Well, yeah, you got to start somewhere, right? Baby steps. But I don't think he's going to be that way. I think he's a guy that's going to take this year off and he's going to be with his family. He's going to be like, you know what? This is fine. I don't have to get back out there and go through this grind again. So when it first happened, I was like, yeah, he's probably going to come back. But the more I've thought about it, I just feel like he's probably done, I think, at this point.
He's going to be cool with his, like, couple $100 million he's got in the bank account. And
yeah,
it's a rough life.
Drive a golf ball into the sunset.
It's a rough life.
No, but I mean, to be to get back on point here, it was really surprising.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us really truly anticipated that they'd be going into the season without him on the roster because he's retired. But I do think that while this doesn't really make them a better team in 2025, I still think if Derek Carr was healthy, he would have been the best quarterback in the roster. It definitely makes them more interesting, and it gives them at least a path to start thinking about the future of the franchise. And they can really legitimately go into the season with a young quarterback as a starting quarterback and commit to this guy, whoever it is, whether it's Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shough, see if they've got the goods. And if they don't, and you suck next year, there's nothing holding you back from drafting a quarterback high in the first round next season.
And by the way, you'll have a lot more cap space next year, too, because of this.
That's more cap space next year, and then in 2027, they're really set up to be in very good shape. I mean, like the Taysom, Cam, DeMario, Alvin, all the big contracts that they've got on the team are basically off the books for 2027. So, like, you could really kind of jumpstart your rebuild if that's what is necessary. And if it's not necessary, that means you've got a good quarterback who's on a cheap rookie contract. It's all really good things, I think.
And you can definitely say this is re-energize the fan base. I mean, people are fired up again just to see something new, and they were ready to move on from Carr, and now they've got their wish.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a fresh slate, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I do want to ask before we kind of close the books on Carr, what is the Derek Carr legacy in New Orleans? Like,
is there one?
Well,
yes, but it's not kind.
It's such a strange thing because I think about his last play, right? He's diving for this first down in a meaningless game in New Jersey. On second down, by the way, he didn't actually, it was 2nd and 10. I went back and looked. He's diving for the first down. He doesn't get it. He hurts himself. Like, to me, that kind of encapsulates this whole, he wanted to be liked so bad. It feels like that. I mean, he was trying, he's flying through the air in a game between 2 5-9 teams or whatever, trying to get to the first down, comes up short, hurts himself. Like, to me, that's just kind of it, is like, it just wasn't what anyone envisioned.
Oh, and people hated him.
And people criticized him for doing something where he was just trying, he's busting his butt for the team. Was it a good decision? Yeah, probably not, but he was busting his butt.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't covered a quarterback personally that anytime you would just tweet out a quote from them, I was always just, F this guy, F this, and there will be comments on the show that said, we were too hard on Carr and that, he's a much better quarterback than we give him credit for. He does have his defenders, but largely, I think what they brought in Derek Carr for was, you might not be the savior, but you're going to be our best solution to quarterback now that Drew Brees is gone. You're going to be the next guy to take the reins. And it is very tough to follow a legend like that. And I just think the pressure was a little too much. I think that situation, like the shadow of Brees, I think really affected his time here. And people rightfully have high expectations because they are used to watching Drew Brees. And I don't think they necessarily have to recalibrate what they expect. But, yeah, I just think he didn't play well enough, too, because, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. 14-13 as a starter. He disappointed in a lot of big games.
Yeah, he didn't have that. He never had that signature moment, that signature win. He just couldn't win his fan base over. I mean, he tried, he wanted to, and it just didn't happen for him. And, they tried Jameis and Taysom and all these other guys between him and Brees, and they were kind of expecting him to at least, take that next step, and he couldn't do it.
I mean, he brought the floor up for the team, but he never got them like to the ceiling. Right? They were a mediocre football team his entire time here when he was in the lineup. When he was out of the lineup, they were a terrible football team, but there was a lot of other reasons for that too.
Right.
And I do think, like, I agree with Matt. Like, I don't think, well, I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't think he deserved a lot of the criticism he received. It was really over the top, in my opinion. Like the Chipotle thing, like he was making a joke about, like, oh yeah, I just went to Chipotle with my family, and everybody's like, that's his first meal. It's like, come on, man! Like he's a Metairie. That's all there is.
Well, and it was like late at night, right? When he
grabbed Chipotle.
I mean, like,
yeah,
like how many people in like I'll go to New Orleans right now and see a line of a dozen people in Chipotle, and not all of them are like terrible people, But like I do think that he had so many missteps. Like he did do a lot of stuff to try to, like, he said all the right things all the time publicly. He did do a lot of stuff to try to win the fan base over, but then he's like, in the midst of this whole like injury imbroglio, and he's out there doing like car reviews.
Right.
Like there's just so many things that like I don't think a lot of it was warranted. I think he was a better player than a lot of people say he was, even though he wasn't great. Like, he was still like the league average quarterback. But yeah, I think there was too many missteps to make up for him to possibly make up for it.
I mean, even his retirement post had a Raiders jersey instead of a Saints jersey. Now, or like a Raiders jersey and a Saints helmet. Like throw, it's little things
Carson
like
Wentz.
that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, put them in a Photoshop of all the different uniforms. Like it's just those small things that, he did try to endear himself to the community, but I don't know. By the end, I don't think the relationship was good there, and just because he gave up $30 million does not signify to me that everything is rosy between them.
Yeah, and what I was trying to say about there not being a legacy, like I don't think we're ever going to see him. I don't think we're ever going to see him back in the Superdome.
He's not
going to come back for
ceremonies.
Saints Legends or whatever.
Yeah.
I said that last week, and Jeff laughed at me. I was like, we won't ever see him again on the show, on the podcast. And I don't think we will.
I don't think we will either.
I mean, you called it. Yeah,
like for me, when the stuff with Olave, when they kind of got into it on the field, and Eric McCoy, like, to
Michael
me, once
Thomas
he did
tweeting
that,
him.
yeah, like, there was almost like no coming back from that. To me, those were like the defining moments, and he would have had to win some really big games to bounce back from that. If he had won games like we wouldn't even be having this conversation. If he won some big games and got into the playoffs, I think we'd be talking a different thing right now.
I think back to that 3-game stretch last year, too, where, he tried to reintegrate himself into the fan base and everything after what you're talking about. But he leads what looks like a game-winning drive against Philadelphia. Defense blows it. He leads what looks like a game-winning drive against Atlanta. Defense blows it. And then the next week he gets hurt against Kansas City, and we don't see him again until Dennis Allen is gone. And that's that. I mean, that's all there was. I mean, that was his chance right there.
I mean, he was back for the Panthers game, and then Dennis Allen got fired.
Oh, true.
But
Okay. But
he lost that
until
game.
it was too late. Yeah, I mean, until
Yes.
it was really too late. And he was clearly not 100% in that game either, I don't think. So what he does leave is a pretty big hole in the Saints quarterback room. So let's spend a minute there. The Saints now have exactly 0 NFL wins in their quarterback room, which I was trying to do some research earlier this week, and Matt, you found someone who did the research better. There has been a handful of times in the last 20 years or so an NFL team goes into the season with no wins in its quarterback room. Usually it's because they have a rookie. The Bengals, when Joe Burrow was a rookie, were one example. The Packers, when Jordan Love became a starter, and they had decent seasons. You can also go to the 2017 Browns, who were the 0-16 team with Deshaun Kaiser, Cody Kessler, and I don't even remember the third one.
Hogan.
Kevin Hogan. The 2001 Panthers, Chris Winkie, they drafted that year, an older rookie. And they had Matt Lytle and Damian Craig, I think. And
Damian Craig.
They went 1-15.
Former LSU coach.
There's some really bad teams. I don't think the Saints are necessarily looking at that. But it is a huge, huge question mark what they're going to get at quarterback.
Yeah, but that's why they spent a high draft pick on Tyler Shough. And they probably would have spent a higher pick if there was a quarterback worthy of taking in the top 10 this year outside of Cam Ward. So I still for some reason just have faith in Kellen Moore as an offensive play caller and in the infrastructure around the quarterback, that they're not going to be one of those 1-16 teams or whatever. They're going to be better than that. But I think this significantly caps their potential to be a good team this season. They're going to have to go through growing pains no matter who is at quarterback. So, it's going to be tough. But I still think that there are enough pieces on that offense for that to be okay as long as the quarterback's not a complete disaster.
Yeah. For me, the defense is more of a concern, but just sticking on the quarterback thing. I mean, Kellen Moore said there's going to be a quarterback rate. I mean, a battle for the position with the 3 guys, which I know he has to say that. I mean, we all.
It's 2 guys.
Yeah, I know. He said 3, but we know it's 2.
We know it's 2.
And I think we all kind of think that the 1 is going to win it, and we think. Well, I know I do. I can't speak for y'all, but I think Tyler Shough is going to be the starter week 1. And I like what I saw Saturday. I mean, it wasn't much as far as. I mean, it's just 7-on-7, just making throws. But I liked the plays that he was making, and I also like just his demeanor. I think he has some leadership, and I think that comes with him being 25 years old. So
yeah, it is a blank slate, as you guys were saying, and I mean, I know you still have some of these older guys on defense at least for another year or 2, but especially on the offensive side, I mean, it feels like you have Kellen Moore in there calling plays, you have Tyler Shough or whomever at quarterback, still pretty young everywhere else except for. I guess you could say running back. It's going to be brand new, and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and I think there are some veterans to help him through. Like I look at Eric McCoy. That'll be really important. I think one of the reasons Spencer Rattler struggled so much is he didn't get much time with Eric McCoy last year. And so, health depending, I think the unit is okay. It's not the best in the world. I still think they need some size at receiver. But it is, it just depends on how ready Tyler Shough is or how much of a step Spencer Rattler can make because, Rattler got 7 games last year. That should be enough to build on. He showed some progress. And then Shough, we've seen quarterbacks around the league now, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, all those guys were experienced. But the interesting thing about Shough is, 42 games is still a huge sample size in college, but it's not 60 starts like Bo Nix. So I do wonder how he's going to come in and whether he is going to be that experienced option right away, but I lean toward yes in that scenario.
I think no matter what, they've got to, whoever's back there, they've got to kind of simplify things early and not let them be in a position where they're under pressure a lot. I think teams are going to try to. I think maybe the book on both Shough and Rattler, since we're not really seriously considering Jake Haener at this point, right? I think the book on both of those guys is that they kind of struggle in the pressure situations, as most quarterbacks do. But that is probably going to be where teams try to take advantage of that inexperience there. So they're probably going to have to, in that early stage of the season at least, kind of hit some easy buttons with these players.
Yeah, and what's interesting there is, we'll see how it unfolds, but just looking at it initially, it seems like they struggle in pressure different ways. Shough, when pressure's there, he kind of breaks down, makes ill-advised throws. Maybe you question what he's doing.
Truly, some of the most hilariously bad throws. There was one where he's got like some pressure coming. He's just like no look, just kind of underhand throws it into the middle of the field, and it was picked off.
He said that he can make throws left-handed, and he wanted to try it in practice. I really hope he does, because I want to see that. And then with Rattler, gotta stop taking sacks like that
and fumbling too.
Fumbling, turnover, but the sack ratio percentage was just off the charts in college. It carried into the pros. It's just you can't keep taking them.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to be like something that gets rewarded in this offense either. Like I don't think Kellen Moore wants like a creator back there who's extending plays, and that's something that I think Rattler does well, even though it works to his disadvantage sometimes. But I think more what they're going to be looking at is, can you be like a point guard in this offense? Can you get the ball out where it needs to be on time?
Any chance the Saints bring in a veteran quarterback, not necessarily to be the starter, but either via free agency or trade, just to kind of stabilize the room?
I would be shocked if they traded any assets for a veteran quarterback, but I do think that there's a possibility that they bring one in just to be that guy, that presence in the room. But it could be somebody like Ben DiNucci, who they just released, but I don't think they're going to be bringing in anybody who's going to be legitimately competing for the starting job, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, and they're adding a fourth quarterback in the process of it.
Yeah.
Lefty from Iowa State
with Kellen Moore and
name escapes me right now.
and Doug
Deckers.
Deckers.
Hunter Deckers.
Yeah, with Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier and their two lefty quarterbacks, they got to make sure they get their guy in there.
He was suspended for gambling in college.
He was.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah, who would ever?
Can't believe anyone would do something like that. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, a few news and notes, some rookie mini camp observations, things like that, and then we will also dig into what we expect from the NFL schedule release tomorrow. Back right after this.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. With quick picks, you can tap right into pre-built, ready-to-bet parlays right from the home screen. And if you miss tip-off, no worries. You can play same-game parlays live during the action. Plus, it's never been easier to find and bet on the biggest matchups of the day, so you can keep up with all the action. Caesars Sportsbook, proud partner of the NBA and the only sportsbook app with Caesars Rewards. Download it today.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Podcast. On this Tuesday, encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is New Orleans Saints at NOLA.com, or you can just search Saints Insider on YouTube and you'll find the list of the podcast episodes. Also, obviously, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, but wherever you are listening, we thank you. We ask you if you could hit the like button and go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the quarterback battle. Is it Tyler Shough's to lose, or are there still some of you out there on the Spencer Rattler train?
Hashtag the agenda.
Is the agenda still alive out
I
there?
think the agenda, technically is
alive.
But I think it's technically dead, right? The agenda was the whole thing about him taking it over from Carr. So Carr's gone.
Well, I mean, the agenda could still be for him to be the quarterback.
Okay.
Okay. We have the agenda part 2.
It's lost steam, I think.
That has.
0-6 will do that, won't it? I mean, he's got to go win games. The Saints did make one move this week.
Two
moves. They signed Donovan Peoples-Jones, wide receiver, best known for his work with the Browns. He was with the Lions last year. I think he was mostly on the practice squad. He got elevated a couple times, but mostly a practice squad guy. I don't know, 6'2", You could see it.
Take a flyer on it. Why not? I mean, I don't think that should preclude them from checking out some of the other names still in the free agent market. But interesting former prospect. I think he was the number one receiver recruit in a pretty talented class with like Jerry Jeudy and a couple of another like first round draft pick kind of guy. Hasn't really panned out in the end. I think he was a 6th round pick. He had the one nice season where he had almost 900 receiving yards, but that was 2 years ago. So, we'll see if he can do anything. But I think it's a low risk bet on their part.
One good thing about him I noticed is he was on the practice squad mostly last year, but the 2 years before that, like he didn't miss games. I mean, he played 17 games 3 years ago, and the season after that he played, I think he missed 2 games, but he got traded in the middle of the season, so he didn't really miss the games. It was just a transition between the two teams. So he's a durable guy at least, and if we know anything about the Saints, that's what they need at receiver. So that bodes well, I think, too.
It reminds me of the Equinemius St. Brown move last year. Just guy who's been there, see if he has anything, and let him compete.
Also kind of interesting, Asante Samuel Jr. was in for a visit yesterday.
Yep.
And he's still awaiting some health clearance things, but that's a name, we talked about briefly, or you guys did, I think, on the podcast y'all did together, that could really help at corner. Like if he's healthy, he's worked with Brandon Staley. It's a position where you need some experience, need an upgrade. Makes a lot of sense.
I think so. I mean, between him and Keenan Allen, I think those are the top 2 guys that would fit like what they need, who are on the free agent market right now. I mean, look, there are flaws to his game, no doubt. He's smaller. He's not a very good player in run and like in run support, but I think would provide an immediate stable upgrade at corner. And somebody who's got familiarity in Brandon Staley's scheme. I mean, he played 2.5, almost 3, I guess 3 full seasons in Brandon Staley's scheme. Had 2 interceptions in each of those years. Obviously, the big concern with him is health. He played 4 games last year. He had surgery in April on his neck to hopefully alleviate what has been bugging him. I guess it was he called it
Stinger.
Felt like stingers in both shoulders, and apparently he's been dealing with this since he was like a kid. But like they took a similar gamble on Chase Young last year, and it paid off. Played in a career high 17 games, and he was a guy who had surgery in the summer and missed a little bit of training camp and came back and was a productive, useful player for him. So like if they could get him on like a one year prove it, try it out deal, I think it would make a lot of sense for this team.
Yeah, I think the notable thing with that, though, is also the reporting said that they're going to revisit this in July, or at least he is, to see how he is. Like, with Chase Young, they were comfortable signing him, and then he's having the surgery. So now they're going to have to wait and see how he does, and does that create a market for his services, or are other teams interested? But at least the familiarity is there.
Yep.
And, another thing, too, is Quincy Riley was at rookie minicamp, but he wasn't participating. He's coming off an unspecified surgery. So, if you were counting on him having a bigger role, maybe he's not 100% when training camp starts, and you just need someone else to compete there, too.
Well, and like I've been on the record, I think they need another corner regardless.
Right, yes.
I don't think you can go into a season with 4 guys that you can hopefully count on, and 2 of those guys are a rookie who's a 4th round draft pick, and Ike Yadam, who's been kind of a fringe secondary player, a really good special teams player, but like kind of in and out of the secondary play. Like I think you need a 5th one just in case of injury and in case one of those other guys doesn't pan out.
And I think like Alontae Taylor here and there maybe, but none of those guys have really proven it at a high level in the NFL either. So you could really use a guy.
Says, "How dare you?"
Well, he's been fine. But Brandon Staley's system, maybe the possibility of significant playing time here. I mean, I think there are some draws to New Orleans for Samuel.
Are we going to talk about Matt's former Commanders guy?
Terrell Burgess.
Oh, right.
The other signing, speaking of the secondary.
I was like, man, that name sounds familiar. And then, oh, yeah, he was in camp with them throughout 2023.
Feels like a special teams guy to me.
Yeah, I mean, he was not very memorable in that camp. I don't think he made the roster.
He did break up the only Tyler Shough incompletion in
That's
7-on-7s.
Yeah, he did.
On Saturday in the media viewing session. So
That's why they signed him.
That got him a training camp spot. So, okay, NFL schedule release tomorrow. The next milestone in the NFL's long and winding offseason. We're going to look at this two different ways. First is, what should the Saints want? And then we'll take some fun guesses at what we think will happen, which Matt has already done. You can read that at NOLA.com/Saints. But what should the Saints want? I have my answer here, but I'm curious to know what you guys think.
West Coast trip, so they don't have to go back to back.
Meaning Rams and Seahawks in back-to-back weeks in one order or the other.
They did it in 2019. Luke almost got killed by a bear.
Yep, it's true.
Drew Brees hurt his hand in L.A. on that trip.
Let's get
The
something.
legend of Teddy B was born.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's get something out there in the universe. Just so you know, I went hiking with Catherine Terrell in Mount Rainier National Park, and we encountered a bear, and she ran away to let me deal with the bear alone. Let the record show, she's a bad friend.
All right,
clear on
Dwight
that?
Schrute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you
I
see
had
Luke
to like slowly walk away from the bear, and I like quickly turned around, and she's gone. Like ran down the trail,
Well,
just left me.
the solution is to not go hiking anyway. You guys have fun.
okay.
If we're
Wow.
not there again.
All right.
If you see Luke and a bear in the woods, help the bear.
I do think, in all seriousness, what the Saints want to me is they have a relatively easy schedule again, right? It's the last place schedule. They want winnable games in the first 6 weeks. That's what I think you want. I don't think you want your Buffaloes and your Miamis and
They don't want to repeat of last year.
yeah. You don't want a slow start. You don't want to have Tyler Shough going out there against some of these Super Bowl contending teams, or at least playoff contending teams in Kellen Moore's first year. Give them a chance to grow, and then I would even say maybe an early bye week where you get to reset and kind of, okay, here's what's working, here's what's not working, and then in the back half of the year you can have the more difficult games. If I'm the Saints, that's what I want.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, obviously you want to get off to a good start. So you want the easy games at the beginning. You don't want to go to Buffalo in December. At least I don't.
Do you want to go to Buffalo at all, though?
That's
I,
gonna be-
Jeff
I
can
enjoyed
have that
Buffalo
one.
last time. I mean, I got my first taste of like real Buffalo wings, and they were pretty. That was a big difference between Buffalo wings here and Buffalo. So
Say hi to Perrin Keys on that trip.
I will if I go. If it's, but
If
it
it's
has
in
to be.
December,
It has
you're
to be
not going.
before
Yeah, it has to be before like Halloween.
September, October. Yeah, exactly.
When we book our travel every year, Rod and Jeff split up the travel as columnists, and Rod goes on 0 of the cold weather trips.
Yes, he's just pass on the cold weather.
Rod stays like below the Mason-Dixon line. He's like, I'm good.
In
I'll go to
Buff-
Miami.
In Buffalo, last time I was there, I stayed at an airport called the Buffalo Airport Hotel. Not a Marriott, and my friend dropping me off was like, so where are you staying? I said, the Buffalo Airport Hotel. He's like, no, which one? I said, that was it.
That's the name of it. Yeah.
The Buffalo Airport
It
Hotel.
was very prestigious.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think it really matters what their schedule looks like. That's just
Hot take.
frankly, like whether the easy games are at the beginning of the schedule or the end of the schedule. I just think that this is a team in transition right now, and I don't think it's really necessarily going to matter how the schedule exactly stacks up. I mean,
yeah, I kind of actually think it's a harder schedule.
It might be
it's
Looking at
slightly
it
harder.
yesterday.
a fourth place schedule, but
Still
it is
relatively
it
easy.
is, but like Seattle,
but, yeah.
I think the division's a little better too than it has been the last couple of years.
Division's a little bit better. One of those fourth place teams is Chicago Bears, who could be
Yeah.
pretty decent this year. You know, I think there's just a chance that this is just very difficult for the Saints this year, and I don't think it really necessarily matters what the order of the schedule is.
I think the other thing is last year what stuck out to me immediately, and it was the stretch I talked about, and it ended up being season defining, is where you had division game, then Monday night game in Kansas City, then another division game, and then a Thursday night game against Sean Payton. You don't want to have these crazy rest. And to that end, I was talking to you guys off the air about this. There's a stat out there that like more than 80% of the rookie head coaches who have a Thursday night game in the first half of their first season are trailing at halftime. It is a really tough transition for a rookie head coach to learn. And so that's one thing to look out for, is you want that Thursday game to be in the back half of the season, if possible. Okay, so now what we think. Matt had a fun mock schedule out there. You started with a September road game in Buffalo. So I'm sure that the weather will be fine for that.
Lovely that time of year.
But I think you had an October road game in Miami. Maybe not so lovely. It might be okay.
Nice.
back-to-back games against the Buccaneers surrounded around a bye week.
I like when the NFL does that. It doesn't have to necessarily be the Bucs, but I like going. That happened with the Falcons a few years ago, right?
Yeah, I think it did. Okay. I think it did.
So let's make some crazy predictions. How many Monday night games? You had one Monday night
I
game.
had 2 primetime games, one Thursday, one Monday.
Everybody gets a Thursday. So the question is, will they have another one? Will they have a Monday? Or
I'm kind of leaning towards no on Monday night game. I just don't know if this team has anything worth putting on Monday night.
juice.
Yeah,
What the
I
hell
think they
last
have
year? Just
juice.
one? The Kansas City game?
Kansas
At Green
City
Bay.
And Green Bay.
Kansas City and Green Bay.
And then the Broncos. Yeah, they have 3
Okay.
primetime games.
I
Okay.
say
No,
no.
they
I
definitely
say
have
no Monday nights, one Sunday night.
Okay. Against who? 49ers feels like a primetime game.
I'm going to say Falcons. I'm going to say a Sunday night game against Falcons. That generally gets some juice going between those two fan bases at least.
2 I consider. 1 I put. The Bears, I think, is fun. You have Caleb Williams. If it's Spencer Rattler, you have that storyline going against
Dennis Allen.
Dennis.
He was
Getting
getting to
there.
it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thought you were ignoring it for some reason.
No. I mean, that. I just don't think Dennis Allen faces his former team as defensive coordinator is going to lead primetime, but
I don't think
Da-da-da-da-da.
Caleb Williams I don't think the NFL people are thinking, oh, Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler.
well, right, I know, but I just
I don't know if they're going that deep into the.
I also think that's it's just the Bears, they draw in primetime. Another one I consider too, or I think has primetime potential, maybe a little bit early, is just like if they play the Jets, Aaron Glenn. See how the Jets are doing.
The
The
other one I
Jets
thought was the
always gets prime
Titans.
time.
Cam Ward against Tyler Shough, 2 of the highest drafted QBs. I mean,
Maybe it's like the
That's my season
first
opener,
game
actually.
in the Monday night
so I know we're gonna
doubleheader
get to that,
window.
but-
Like,
you like Titans as a season opener. That was the season
Yeah.
opener at home 2 years ago.
Yeah,
so it could
just-
be the return.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
not
going
that I would want to cover this game, but I kind of would be intrigued by a Black Friday game. I don't know why they would.
The Black Friday game, I think, has already been
Has
announced.
it been announced? Okay. never
And
mind.
I'm Broncos Chiefs maybe.
No, that's Christmas, right?
That's Christmas.
That's Christmas.
Christmas.
It has been announced. I just can't.
They
never
announced that
mind.
one yesterday. I think.
I'm-
When I
I
wrote
may
the
look it up.
article, it had been.
I'm going to see if I can look it up as we talk here. But a few of these games have been announced. Saints do not have an international game.
Boo.
Next year, Paris.
I'm
right?
I'm like so jealous of the people who cover the Vikings.
Okay, Bears at Eagles is the Black Friday game.
Okay.
Vikings are doing the back-to-back weeks in Europe.
Dublin and then London.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
It might be the other way around, London and Dublin, but
I think it's Dublin first. But either way, a huge advantage for them because that's 2 road games that they don't have to go on that are now neutral site games, and they get the distinct travel advantage the second week
Yes.
of those 2. So to me, that's a coup for the Vikings.
Did they put them in the Ireland game because their coach is O'Connell?
dude.
Deep thoughts with Matthew Paris.
Kevin O'Connell just shows up looking like a leprechaun. Very tall leprechaun.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's exactly why it happened.
Yeah,
That's exactly the NFL loves a script.
That's deep thoughts.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anything else? Any holiday games? Don't see this as a Thanksgiving night team.
Yeah, I just don't think the Saints have any juice, man. Like
Yeah.
in terms of like a national viewership, like I'm expecting like 14 noon games on their
That'd be
schedule.
great. I love noon
That
games.
I don't mind at all.
Yeah. I mean, they're just like, it'd be very surprising to me if this team has any like premium slots, just because like, look, they are more interested, but like, I don't think the NFL's scheduling apparatus is going to move things around because Derek Carr retired, another guy, a rookie quarterback potentially.
And
right?
from a national perspective, is that really more interesting? Like it is, I think, to locals, but
Well, I certainly think it makes more interesting nationally. Like they're going to be intriguing. Rookie quarterbacks absolutely sell. Like, just look at like literally all the draft coverage in the lead up and in the days of the draft. It's just like all about rookie quarterbacks. That is really interesting. But I just don't think that. I think that the retirement thing has just happened too late for that to have any real legitimate impact on their schedule.
I think they will have a Monday night game, but I think it will be part of a doubleheader, like the Panthers game a couple years ago. It feels like they could throw them in.
And they had
as
one
the-
last year too, didn't they?
Not a
I don't think either one was a
No, I don't
doubleheader.
think it was a doubleheader,
Yeah, I
no.
think they were both standalone.
Okay.
Matt, you were saying?
Oh, I mean, it is technically the 20th anniversary of Katrina, but
It's
Batfield's
not
maybe.
technically, it's actually.
No, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Speaking, yes, but them returning to the dome, that feels like more of a 2026 thing. You try
Anniversary of rebirth.
yeah.
In 06,
Oh, I
26.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could
They
be.
played in San Antonio,
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll find out. Keep it locked to NOLA.com/Saints. We'll have a tracker as the schedule tends to leak earlier in the day, but if not, it comes out at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And we will be back Thursday with our first look game by game predictions. I can see the W and L cards from here. We're gonna bust them back out after a year away and pick the Saints' schedule on Thursday. So
We need
until
a
then,
lot of L cards, probably.
yeah, the L cards we're gonna have to make sure are reinforced. I think. All right, and Rod, I think you're off on Thursday, but we'll have you give us you're gonna do a
I'll do
column
mine.
anyway,
Yeah, you
and
can
so we'll give Rod's predictions too. Until then, our producer today was Norman Bell. He's Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris. I'm Zach Ewing, and this has been the Saints Insider.